Hello, and welcome to another episode of Big Plays. Today, I'm going to be showing off the Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood PSP game. FMA has always had a special place in my heart, being one of the first anime series I ever really dove into, and Edward in particular has just always been my type of cool dude, being that we're both inquisitive manlets with a fashion for long coats. So I decided, why not check out one of those FMA games I've never played? This game, as it turns out, is a 2-on-2 semi-RPG 3D fighter. You can see it has very basic stats that you can level up 5 times each per character. The tutorial is very basic, but as you'll see, this is not a very deep game to begin with. You move around a small arena, attacking the enemy team. Of course, you get to use Alchemy, which is your special attack. Every character has their own special attack, as you'd expect. The meter in the bottom left works as both your super meter and a recovery meter. If your ally falls, you can use part of it to revive them, or they can revive you if you die. If you initiate a super, which the game calls combination attacks, you have to back off and press 3 strings of random buttons. The enemy can and will beat your face in while you try to do this. But you get a pretty cool cutscene for doing it. But you can't skip the cutscene, and it plays every single time you do a combination attack. Still, it's well animated, and I think the game's animations and character models are some of the best parts of the game. The sound, on the other hand, as you just heard, is not. Now, I don't know if it's just an emulator glitch or actually on the game itself, but sometimes the sound cracks, and it is absolutely awful. The story mode plays out visual novel style, with the most basic portraits for animation. They clearly did not have much of a budget, and what they did have, they didn't spend here. But hey, it's voiced. Sometimes. The story mode plays out with the visual novel scenes leading into fights, and that's it. It's pretty basic. This fight is just Ed and Now against Armstrong, as you can see. The game plays well enough, but you might be able to tell it's pretty clunky and kind of slow. Jumping takes a few seconds and never feels good. It's certainly no JoJo Eyes of Heaven. So generally, you want to try to just attack your enemy in the back while they're trying to fight your partner. Sometimes it can be good to back up and use your long range attacks, like Al is doing here. He can root an enemy, which can be pretty helpful as you saw there. You can use defensive abilities like this, but it's surprisingly slow to come out, so I never saw much of a point for it. Spamming long range abilities can get you through many fights though. There's also battle damage, and that's pretty cool. You can see Ed's coat is getting torn, and Armstrong's bleeding a little. The AI does tend to get some benefits, like they tend to survive combination attacks with just a sliver of health. So I got Armstrong here. The enemy will gang up on you. This game can get surprisingly difficult, and it doesn't always feel fair. And if you get knocked out like that, you have to just sit there and hope your partner decides to do something useful. Like revive you, which they can do. If they back up like this, they're probably trying to pull off their own combination attack, which will usually hurt a lot. You get a chance to put in some button combos to do some defense, but it doesn't make a huge difference. Even the partner that's not being hit gets to put in some defense as well, though. You can see, even with all those correct button inputs, I still got owned. You can move around the world map to select missions, but every single mission is reduce enemy to 0, and I never found a different mission. Maybe they had more planned. If you survive a combination attack, you can get some amusing reactions where they're like, "Oh god, why aren't you dead?" One of the coolest parts of the game is that every character has different costumes you can unlock, and they can look really cool. This one seems to be Ed in State Alchemist colors. The costumes can change their model too, like this one is Ed without the coat. I have a separate video that shows off every costume linked in the description, but I'll show off a few of my favorite ones here. I like all the different colors of Ed's coat. And by the way, you see how the shading on the coats is a little janky? That doesn't seem to show up in actual gameplay, just seems to show up in the character viewer. Probably just a glitch with the shading. Ed's purple winter coat is really cool. Ed can also get these models of his angry gremlin chibi mode. And yes, he fights like that. So does Al. Roy is very stylish, and I love his slick Helsing trench coat and suit combination. Armstrong has this really dapper English suit, and he can cosplay the Joker. This black and red Izumi can sport is pretty goth, I like that. Ling's costume here is pretty piratey. Maybe Guybrush Threepwood? Bradley gets some really cool outfits with his military coat and hat. And then he gets these, which are probably the best outfits in the game. Come on, fighting in a Hawaiian shirt. Envy also gets to join the long coat gang. That's enough of costumes. Time to get back to the game. If you want to see the rest of the costumes, just check my other video in the description. So Ed has a fight here against Izumi, and it is one of the hardest in the game. I mean, seriously, she will beat your ass. Check out some of the damage she will do to me. One combo. She is really good at counterattacking too. She is not afraid to cut you. Just get used to seeing this.
You got knocked the fuck out, man!
The saving grace is you do get experience even when you lose. You get about half as much as a victory, but it helps. On the map, red nodes are story missions and yellow nodes are side quests. It doesn't really make a difference, except that story missions give you cutscenes. Here you can see Bradley pull off a pretty vicious combination attack on us. Those sword hits, man. He is just murdering. Though Ling will throw a grenade in your face. And here's the first mini-boss, I guess? It's Transformed Gluttony, and he's very durable and takes forever to fight. He's not super difficult though, just extremely beefy. A combination attack helps, but you can see how he's able to shrug even that off. Fights like this are where the game really starts to drag. And here's the cutscene starting into the final boss. It's a pretty horrifying transformed Envy. He's pretty difficult and also has about 3 billion health. His attacks do have a wind-up time, but you have to learn the patterns. His AoE attacks can own both of you. Here's the attack I had the most trouble dealing with. That charge bite looks easy to deal with, but it tracks you even when you run around. And seriously, look how little damage my combination attack does. He takes forever. He does eventually go down though. And you will get a final cutscene. And that's it. The game just kind of ends. They really want you to watch Brotherhood to get a satisfying ending, because this game does not have a real conclusion. There is an after credits scene, but it's just a kind of a happy little epilogue, and still not a conclusion to the overall story. There is a cool character-specific ending with a little anime cutscene. Really just a still picture from the anime itself. And that's how the story mode plays out. Every character does have their own story mode, but they all play pretty much the same. It's cool to get to play as other characters though. I liked Roy a lot. Roy can kind of play as a mid-range character because you want to just keep burning people with your alchemy. Different characters have other characters that accompany them, like Roy has Hawkeye as his partner. You'd kind of expect things like that. But once you clear the story mode, you can choose anyone as your partner. That's kind of neat. So for that reason, it's best to hold off on the side quest until you clear the story mode. When I say different story mode campaigns all kind of play the same though, I mean it. Here you can see I'm fighting Transformed Gluttony again, and it is the same fight. Roy's final battle is different though, but it's just a normal fight against Bradley and Gluttony. Just like Ed, his story just ends. This happens with every single campaign. As you play more campaigns, you will notice the game does get repetitive. You will get so sick of fighting Transformed Gluttony, or just Gluttony in general. He's not the only one that gets reused. Here's Izumi's boss fight. Yup, Transformed Envy. And Scar. Look at his final boss. You get the idea. So that's pretty much the game. What do I think of it? Well, it's fun for a mega fan of Fullmetal Alchemist. Even then, you can pretty much see all the combat has to offer in just a few hours. It is not a deep game. The best part of the game is, in my opinion, the character models, and especially the costumes. But here's where the game really shoots itself in the foot. It takes an absolutely insane amount of grinding to unlock all of the costumes. By the time I had completed every single story mode and side quest in the game, I still did not even have all of Ed's costumes unlocked, much less everyone else. In fact, you have to get Ed to max level 100, to get all of his costumes. For reference, I was only around level 40 when I completed all of the missions. There is a free battle mode and a multiplayer mode that also gives experience, but man, they really must have thought they had the next Smash Brothers on hand with the amount of playtime they expect you to put in for the costumes. You do not want to know how much time I had to put into the game to unlock all the costumes. I literally could not find the costumes listed anywhere on the internet, and even GameShark cheat codes only work for Ed now. I suspect there's a reason for that. In short, play the game if you like FMA, but do not be a madman and try to complete it. Check it out for a blockbuster rental, and then put it down. God.
Maybe I'll go home.